Hey, I'm Kate Stillman, and I made you a microbiome diet shopping list. And the reason was it can just be a little bit overwhelming to understand how to deeply feed your microbiome. And I know a lot of you want to detox your gut, a lot of you want to reduce the bloating, the constipation, maybe the fatigue, maybe some of you are trying to strengthen your immune system, maybe some of you have cancer and you understand that that's extreme dysbiosis and you're trying to create a really healthy microbiome. So I just want to, welcome to my kitchen, I just want to show you a few things that for me are staples, and they're in categories on your shopping list. So one of the most obvious ones is foods that are fermented. So things like pickles and kimchi, this all falls under fermented vegetables. This is fermented, some are squash, even pickled garlic. These are all things that actually are probiotic, meaning they have the microbes in them that you're trying to replenish your gut microbiome with. And then there's just the basics of what the base staple that the microbiome seems to love more than anything else is beans. So these are mung beans. These are the easiest to digest. They're split mung beans. They're these little yellow beans. They cook really fast, kind of like lentils. Lentils are also awesome. Seems like the microbiome seems to love all different kinds of beans. But if you have gas and bloating, the smaller the bean, the easier it is to digest. Which brings us to, how do you cook beans? Well, once you soak and boil your beans, you want to then coat them in a spicy oil. This is how it's done in India and in other countries where beans are a staple. So for a good oil, and there's a whole oil section, things like coconut oil or ghee, these are better because they have a higher melting point, so you can cook the spices right into them. Spices like turmeric, and I have all different kinds of spice jars. Turmeric and ginger in particular are amazing. There's a whole list in your microbiome diet shopping list for spices. Now, if you haven't bought new spices lately, chuck your spices and replenish with new. You don't want your spices to be more than 6 months old, or they won't have nearly the potency. The microbiome loves the extremity of taste, like intense pungency, sour, bitter, astringent. Whereas the dysbiotic microbes, those actually kill them off. So having spices, taking oil, like if you're making beans and say making mung bean soup, then I would put some oil in a fry pan and I'd add my turmeric powder, add some cumin seeds, some mustard seeds, and just saute that, and then toss that whole mix into the cooked beans. So spices are important. Having good oils like the coconut oil, organic, cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil, ghee or clarified butter. Those are some really good oils, really easy on the physiology to digest and to absorb. All right, so other things like nuts and seeds. A lot of people don't know this about almonds. Almonds are amazing food. A lot of the nuts are for microbiome. If you're trying to avoid lectins, you'd stay away from cashews. But these nuts are actually full of enzymes, and the reason they're full of enzymes is I buy a whole bag, and I use Thrive Market for my nuts. I'll put a link in the description. And I buy raw almonds by the pound and other nuts like hazelnuts, and then I'll soak them in water, salt water overnight, and then I peel the skins and put them in a dehydrator. What that means is that the enzymes in here are still intact. If you're just eating raw nuts, the skin around it is actually quite disruptive to digestion and absorption. So the more sensitive your gut is, the more you're going to want to watch our videos on Ayurveda and how to food combine and how to cook in a way that is super easy on digestion. All right, so nuts and seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are all things, these are sprouted pumpkin seeds. So if you don't want to sprout your own almonds, you can start to buy things like Thrive Market has these too, sprouted pumpkin seeds, but they've already been soaked and sprouted. That means they're full of enzymes. Your microbes love enzymes, so the easiest way for them to turn energy into matter, so the matter that they'll need in their own building blocks for a healthy microbiome. So a lot of people don't know it's the microbiome that sets your circadian rhythm. So if it's hard for you to get up at dawn, that's a sign that your microbiome is off. It means that when it's off, that means you have lower microbial diversity. So for our microbiome to be healthy, it means lots of different species. And then these are the kinds of food that feed the species and also are the species themselves. So probiotic means it's the species themselves. A few little other tips, like having stock. If you don't make your own bone broth, I like buying by the case organic bone broth from chicken bones, from beef bones, and that just is also bone is really, really healthy for microbiome health. They're giving the building blocks for, again, what your body needs to make really good tissue in a way that's easy to digest and absorb. So what you can see in here, there's no processed food anywhere. The closest we have is my homemade almond flour crackers. I make my own crackers. These are with almond flour and a lot of spices, again, garlic, onion, things that the microbiome absolutely loves. Because I don't like to have a lot of salt in my crackers. There's a lot of added things, even in like good organic almond crackers. So I find it's easier to batch task once every couple of weeks, and I'll just make a tray of my own crackers. All right, other things you might want to get at the store. I'm going to do a separate video on supplements for microbiome. Plenty of fresh like fruits and vegetables, leafy greens. Here's some cilantro. The more fibrous the foods, like cabbage is a really strong fibrous vegetable, and it's actually the cellulose fibers that the microbiome, it doesn't digest that in the stomach, it digests it in the colon. And out of the colon, if there's enough cellulose fibers in your colon, your body will create short chain fatty acids. And short chain fatty acids are the absolute bomb if you're trying to reduce your overall inflammatory load on your body. So again, this is just a little bit of a highlights of different things that you might include in your shopping list. They're all in the shopping list. So get that PDF. And one last thing, oh, two last things actually. This is buckwheat that I also soak and sprout and dehydrate. And then I use this as like a breakfast cereal. I'll have this with like chia seeds and some almond milk. For me, that's like just a really yummy, super easy to digest breakfast, or I'll throw in a handful of the almonds. But some grains can also be really good, but if you're having too much like white rice or wheat, you really want to reduce all that and just go more into what I've got here, like the beans, the fermented vegetables, the fermented foods, lots of spice, some good broth, some good soups. And lastly, what I want to mention with microbiome diet shopping list, and this isn't on the list, but it's just simply carrying a thermos with hot water. And what's in here is just some fennel seeds. So it's just hot water and fennel seeds, and I'll sip this between meals. And what that does is it increases my hydration. The microbiome absolutely loves this type of hydration, of just sipping water between meals, not snacking between meals, having intermittent fasting between meals. And the last thing I'll say on that, we have a lot of tip sheets on intermittent fasting. The microbiome, to be healthy, requires fasting times. So if you're eating too frequently, which means that there's not at least a 13-hour break between the last calories and the first calories, your microbiome is, like, even if you're eating all the right things, your microbiome is still really gonna suffer because it's just not getting enough time to actually digest the dysbiotic microbes. The longer you fast, the more the eubiotic microbes digest the dysbiotic microbes. The good guys win. So everything else is on the microbiome shopping list. Enjoy the list and the guide that came with it.